Welcome to the session 11, Integrating Management Frameworks, Existing and New. Last week, we carried out the session 10, which was on background information. This program is on enhancing executive ability and decision-making skills with in-company case studies. This is being brought to you by METL Global Perspectives, www.metl.in. Reach out to us if you want to know more about it. Frameworks. While writing a case, it is important to keep in mind the framework that will be used during the debrief of the case. The framework acts like an external checklist for the contents and the dilemma that are in the body of the case. A writer can use the framework for assessing if all the content has been covered in the body of the case or not. There are three types of situation that can emerge. Use an existing framework, borrow from outside the management domain, or create an entirely new one that would be the intellectual property of the company. Using an existing framework. Management frameworks are created by thought leaders after carrying out extensive studies and research. Anchoring a case in an existing framework brings the required completeness and depth to the case. A case might have one or multiple frameworks for reference. For instance, if a case is on various growth opportunities that are connected to the core competence of the company, the adjacencies model by Chris Zook can be referred. However, alternate models like circular economy, waste to wealth, and innovation can also be referred to give diverse views. Frameworks outside of business management. What if the practice is so unique that there is no framework directly applicable in the realm of business management? In such an instance, a case writer can refer to similar frameworks that are used in other environments outside of business, like public policy or the military or healthcare. Recently, I wrote a case on a practice where planning and preparation went on for 2 years and a very intense project was then completed in 30 days. I could not find any framework in the world of business that could be applied to this kind of work. None of the project management frameworks or the large project management frameworks could fit into this kind of a work pattern. I then referred to the framework used in the military that was relevant as they train for a long period of time to execute an unknown and a perilous mission. In their planning and readiness depends the success of the operation. When I applied this framework to a business scenario, it definitely made a lot of sense. So at times, it might be necessary to use a framework from some other discipline like public policy, which has got excellent frameworks around it, or the military, or healthcare, or even innovation, and such frameworks can then come in to make more sense out of what is happening. Create a new framework, intellectual property. What if there is no parallel at all anywhere? Certain industries, largely innovator-led and very scientifically proven and high on technical and technological expertise, are at times way ahead of the knowledge curve. In such cases, a new framework has to be created based on the disruptive practices that bring the knowledge in the fold of the academia. Such an instance of such a situation is Disruptive Innovation by Professor Christensen, that is modeled on the computer hardware industry and the way it grew in a rapid pace. An organization that has a very unique practice or practices can write cases about it and create a framework that would be the intellectual property of the organization for years to come. I created a leadership development program focused on driving growth for an organization that had 6 in-company case studies exploring various aspects of growing a business, organic and inorganic. Just imagine how rich in IP such a company would be. So when you write a case and you stitch together multiple cases to create a program, and if all of it is very much in-house and you create a new framework with it, this is very valuable intellectual property that one can create for an organization. Deep insights missing in published cases. The cases written for publication purpose and use do not contain details of the innovative processes or practices that are unique to the organization. They might talk of the problem, they might talk of the solution, but the way the solution was arrived at is where the whole knowledge resides. The published cases do not talk about that, and that gap remains. So, when you write an in company case, that gap is actually captured. And when that gap gets captured, you have got really high quality thought processes and actions out there. At times, the why and the thought processes are missing too. Such case studies have information that companies want the readers to know and will not be high on insight. Such cases have learning value for the students as they are around the conceptual frameworks, but have little time to develop the complex underlying practices that really made the difference. Getting to the insights. For instance, I was once writing a case on new product development for an organization. The product was a blockbuster and talked about a lot. I asked from where did the idea come for producing it at the very first place. This was a very unique product, and it was very unlikely that as a result of a lot of discussion between the team members and the senior management team they could have come with that thought at all. So I wanted to know as to what was the trigger for that base thought, the basic thought. That's when I came to know that the chairman of the company had met an industry expert on a flight to Italy. He then commissioned the person to identify the new products that the organization can get into. The resulting consulting opportunity provided over 300 possibilities that the team then narrowed down and converged on 10 to work with, because those 10 were the ones where they could have been the market leader, which was required. They might have had the expertise and the core competence to go ahead with. One of those 10 was that blockbuster idea. So understand that it's important to get to the insight. Only when you get to this insight can you actually make it work. Otherwise, people will say that, here was an idea, here was a great idea, we just thought and it happened. It doesn't happen like that. It never happens like that. What happened in between is important to be captured. That is how the thought came. How was it built upon? Where did it come from? Evolve a practice from a case. A good case brings out what really worked well for the company, and those practices can then be documented at a granular level of details and adopted as a standard operating procedure. This provides enormous advantage to the company. For instance, a framework like the Toyota Production System is an in-depth compilation of the internal processes that made the company into an automobile leader even though they were a late entrant. However, why couldn't other companies replicate that with ease? Practice, process, culture, leadership are all interlinked with each other. One cannot follow a practice with other elements not being in place. In the case you're writing, what is the uniqueness that you could identify? Are there some hidden elements that you could bring forth, much to the surprise of all those who were involved in providing inputs for the case at the very first place? Think about it. Case writer knowledge. A case writer would have to be an avid reader and know how to connect the instances within the frameworks. They need to have deep understanding of numerous frameworks and how to use them well. If a new framework has to be created, the case writer should be able to synthesize information to create that one. Deep industry understanding of the industry, management frameworks, and the ability to write them is a rare set of skill that a case writer possesses. A case writer might have to go and meet the customer, might have to go and meet the supplier, might have to understand the underlying processes, might have to visit the field, might have to talk to all the people involved, and then figure it all out, keeping the management frameworks at the back of the mind. Now, putting all of this together and synthesizing and then making the story and writing the case is a very interesting exploration that a case writer has to go through, and therefore the vastness of the knowledge and expertise of the case writer is very important in this. There are many business management frameworks, but here I am just giving some of them which you can refer to when you're writing a case. For running a business successfully, use the business model canvas and 5 elements for running a successful business as identified by Ramcharan in his book. Managing discontinuity and growth, you can look at value disciplines and you can look at adjacencies. Transforming your business, you can look at balance scorecard, Kotter's model for turnaround, business value chain, Pestle. Business strategy, you can look at Playing to Win by Lafley. You can look at McKinsey 7S, which is a very classical framework in this. Competitive analysis, you can look at Porter's 5 forces. You can also look at the 6th force, which is an addition, which is about the complements. You can look at VRIO framework, which was created for identifying the unique edge. Marketing and sales, you can look at 4 P's of product marketing by Philip Kotler, 5 P's of service marketing, BCG product portfolio of rising stars and dogs and cash cows. Yeah. So these are all such frameworks are there. Many more various interesting frameworks are there as well. So make sure that you go through and do your adequate research on the framework which applies and select the one which really works for you in your particular context, in the particular organization that you're talking of. In case the business has already got a practice that they adopt for arriving at the strategy or the maps and all, you can also study them and see if they are applicable into your case. It can so happen that that framework is also applicable. Questions? In the case that you're writing, what is the management framework or the multiple frameworks that you need to use? After using the framework, did you have to add or do away with some information? Did you have to create a new framework, a new intellectual property? Message me with your queries and I'll revert to you as soon as I can. Reach me at saugata@metl.in. The next week we will go through session 12, which is faculty note, putting it all together. Happy case writing. I hope you have enjoyed this whole process as much as I have enjoyed guiding you through it.